Let's start. A little bit more about me. My name is Fernando, or Fer, because I know we are all about productivity, so that name takes 3 times shorter, so that's good. My last name is Petrales, which I came to the realization 1 month ago that it's Spanish for pear trees, plural, and I don't like pears. I'm coming from Guadalajara, Mexico. It's not very far from here. There's a direct flight, 4-hour flight. It's a nice place. And I've been doing pretty much 8 years doing Ruby on Rails, mostly consulting. Of those 8 years, 5 months were on working at a startup. Just 5 months. I didn't like the startup life. Right now, I'm developer of ThoughtBot in the part of the Boost team, and I also host the RubyMX community. Probably you saw something in the schedule regarding like a meetup / community. So we recorded that yesterday. It was really cool to meet more people who happens to speak Spanish. This is my 5th RailsConf, first as a speaker, so it's really very important for me. And the picture is not really a picture, it's an illustration by Sarah. That's her Instagram, Liar Space. That's a nice illustration. So yeah, let's do some warm-up questions. Raise your hand if you have access to a production server or database. Oh, most of us. That's interesting. Raise your hand if you would feel more comfortable not having access to that production server or database. Yeah, most of us. It's a big responsibility to have the keys of the kingdom at our disposal. Again, raise your hand if you are comfortable with the security measurements your organization takes. That you say like, okay, I can go to sleep every night, no problem. I know if there's an issue, someone's gonna take care of it. Okay, not a lot of hands, that was expected, that's good. Regardless of your answer, this might not be the talk for you. There's more capable people who can help you or your organization to prevent undesired access to your data or servers from outsiders, also known as hackers. There are consulting companies that make a living and are very good in letting you know what you can improve. Go and hire one. Be ready for the worst. Don't assume that because you're a small company, you are not a target of interest for hackers. However, raise your hand if you have had a copy of production data in your machine. Okay, that's interesting. More or less half of the people. Raise your hand if someone from your organization has asked you for a copy of production data. Okay, interesting. Raise your hand if you have provided a copy of production data to someone in your organization. No judgment, so feel free to raise your hand. Last question. Raise your hand if you are concerned about copies of production data being in someone's hands. Yeah, so if you answer yes to at least one, this is the talk for you. The inspiration of this talk. Some cases, I think the reason that you decided to attend this talk is this thing. What is this? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's a United States federal statute signed into law in 1996. It pretty much modernizes the flow of healthcare information, stipulates how personally identifiable information maintained by healthcare and healthcare insurance industries should be protected from fraud and theft. In general, it prohibits healthcare providers and businesses from disclosing protected information to anyone other than a patient and the patient-authorized people. And this term, it's also related to that HIPAA term, the PHI, Protected Health Information. What is that? Also known as personal health information. It's the demographic information, medical stories, test results, laboratory results, mental health condition, insurance information, and other data that healthcare professionals collect to identify an individual and determine appropriate care. What is considered protected information? Pretty much all of this. Name, address, any date, not just your date, maybe the date that you were accepted into a hospital, maybe the time you were included into a new insurance, phone number, fax number. I don't know if fax is still a thing, but probably. Email address, social security number, pretty much all of it. But also, the last point is also important. Any other unique identifying characteristics. That one is more tricky because maybe a person who has a very uncommon tattoo in a very specific part of the body, that makes that person easy to identify. So we have to protect also that kind of data. And one of the cases that caught my attention is this one, lifespan. Unencrypted stolen laptop cost lifespan more than 1 million in fees. Pretty much the issue was an employee's computer went missing with protected health information of about 20,000 records. Last time I checked in my wallet, I didn't have $1 million to spare on a fee. And there's a keyword here, unencrypted. So you might think, okay, my machines are encrypted, so we shouldn't have an issue, right? Somehow, because if you have protected information and you cannot document and prove that the device was encrypted, you also need to follow the requirements for a HIPAA breach. And then you might think, I don't have to worry, I don't have any health information in my hand. Maybe I work for fintech, or maybe I do any other kind of industry. Am I safe if my app is not health related? Well, one of the nice things of consulting, which is what I've been doing for the last 8 years, is that you might work with clients from outside the States. This is equals to you have to worry about local legislation. So let's go back to my country, Mexico. We have this very long name. I'm not going to say what it means in Spanish, but in English it's the Federal Law of Protection of Personal Data held by individual. And it was approved in 2010, I think. And it aims to regularize the right to informational self-determination. What it means is that companies such as banks, insurance companies, hospitals, schools, telecommunication companies, religious organizations, and any professional, such lawyers, doctors, and others, are required to comply with the provisions of this law, which is very similar to HIPAA. It's like there's information that identifies a person, and you have to protect that. And this brings another case. And again, this is an interesting case because I was affected, and 93.4 million of Mexicans were affected, pretty much. What happened? Personal information of almost 94 million Mexicans exposed on Amazon. What happened? We have a voter entity that has a registration of pretty much all adults in Mexico. And for some reason, which I don't understand, they provide a copy of that database to the political parties, which is around 10 political parties. And one of these parties upload a copy to Amazon without protection, a MongoDB database of about 132 gigabytes. So how did it happen? As I mentioned, someone uploads something that shouldn't have uploaded. Hashtag oopsie. So the first lesson, don't give production copies to anyone. And that could be pretty much the end of the talk. But that's the safest thing to do. Don't let your data go out from your production servers. But of course, you're not coming to hear that. But what if? What if we can provide only what is needed? And there's a general term that we can use, or that it's well known, which is anonymization of data. If we think about the reasons why someone from our organization requires access to production data, we can, most of the time, realize that they don't want the whole data. They just need a subset of information. And maybe they can need everything or just specific parts, or they need to do some research on their data. maybe a data scientist needs to get access to your data sets to do some calculations, I don't know. It's up to your organization. But we can do some data, and we must do some data anonymization before giving a copy of production data in case we decided that we have to give. And there's a tool that I've been using recently, which is this one, Postgres Anonymizer. What is this? It's an extension to mask or replace personal identifiable information or any commercial sensitive data. By the name, you can guess that this works only for Postgres, which is most probably that you are using in a Rails application. So there's a repo with a demo, so you don't have to follow everything on this section. You can take a look at that repo, and I'm going to share the link on Twitter or on Slack. So if you miss anything, you can go to the repo and take a look at what's going on. For this case, I have a sample application. And as you can see, it's a vanilla Rails application that has a table called users. We have an ID, we have a first name, a last name, a street line 1, a street line 2, a zip code, an email, salary in cents. That's just made up numbers. Doesn't make sense that someone earns 200 cents. But it's just like a sample of the kind of data that we work regularly. So again, let's say someone needs a copy of this data. Maybe they want to do, I don't know, just like they want to take a look at the structure of the database. They want to maybe do some calculation with the salaries. Maybe they need to calculate bonuses. They need to compare the finances of the company. Maybe they need to, I don't know, there's a lot of things that you can do with data. I'm not a data scientist, but I'm sure that they have a lot of good use cases to get this information. So what's the first thing? Again, don't worry, you can take a look at this at the example. So it's a Postgres extension that's pretty straightforward to install. You just clone the extension. It's directly on GitLab, open source, of course. Make install, make extension, make install. And then we have to enable the extension in our database. So yeah, pretty much we have to do some SQL commands to alter our database. In this case, I'm working in development, so I don't really have to worry about messing something up. Be careful when you're doing this in production, and we're gonna see an example. So pretty much alter database, and we are preloading the extension, and then we create the extension anon if not exist. So okay, now we have an extension in our database. What can we do with it? One of the things that I have found more useful for this tool is this, static masking. What is that term? Sometimes the best way to deal or transform the original dataset is pretty much destroy the local copy that you have. So what it means, someone is getting a copy from the database, install in another server, maybe locally, and then transform that data so it's not recognizable. And this works very good for local copies of the data. Again, it's a copy. If we destroy anything, we don't have to worry. The real data is in production. The advantage of using static masking is that if our computer is stolen, if it's encrypted or not, the data is anonymized. So we have something less to worry about. And again, as a note, don't run this in production because you are going to actually destroy the data. And what are the strategies that we can do for static masking? This tool allows to do 3, which is applying masking rules. We can do some shuffling in columns. We can add noise to numerical or date values. So let's see an example of each one. Applying masking rules. We have the extension set up in our database. So let's connect to our database. In this case, this is the database name for the example. We initialize the extension, anon it, and then we can define some rules. And When I showed this example to a coworker, they mentioned, oh, that looks like Faker, but for your database. And that's true. This is how you define rules in Postgres Anonymizer. You have seen this security label. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Security label for the name of the extension, and then we define, okay, on this column, data table users, column first name, we want to mask the information in this column with a function. What is the name of the function? Anon fake first name. And this is how we're defining a rule to that column. Again, this security label, it's a very interesting, if you're using Postgres, you probably haven't heard about this, this framework. It's a security framework that is inside of Postgres. Pretty much what it lets you do is you can achieve like very fine-grained control and security control on your data. For example, as a result of using this, you can make that some users can only see obfuscated data. In this case, I'm just pretty much doing more security labels for this example. I'm doing pretty much the same for last name. In the column last name, just using a fake last name. For the street lines, maybe I don't care about the street, so I'm just writing a hard-coded value confidential. And the same for a street line too. For this example, I'm only care about the numbers, and I'm not really care about what is the salary of each person and where they live. Pretty much the same for street line too, and pretty much the same for zip code. I don't really need to provide the real zip code of the person, so I can use a random zip code. And finally, I would like to anonymize or scramble a little bit the email. Because again, the email, if you have one person's email and you put that into any search engine, you can find interesting information about the person. So I also want to anonymize that. And this extension provides this function, partial email. And again, I provide just the name of the column that I want to anonymize. And then at the end, I just run anonymize database. Remember, this will destroy the real data. It's not making a copy of your database. That's up to you to make a copy. So this will pretty much destroy, this will mutate the database. What is the result? This is pretty much how it looks like once I run this command. If you see first name and last name, it's like completely different. At the top is the original data set. At the bottom is the anonymized one. We have the street line 1 and 2 confidential. We have random zip codes. And the email, it's really cool because it's partial anonymized. We know that it starts with FE and then there's an @ But if you compare with the real emails, it's not even the same length. It's not even the same, the domain is hidden. We can define if we want to customize how we're anonymizing, we can do that. But the default function, this is what it does, which is good enough for me. The salary, I didn't make anything with the salary for now because I care about these numbers. I just don't want to associate a person with a salary. So if you see this data set, you have no idea who these people is. They don't exist, to be honest. The salary is intact. So I can make calculations with the salary without disclosing whose salary belongs to which person. I can also shuffle in columns. This is also interesting, because again, when we're doing calculations, we sometimes don't care about where those numbers come from, but we need to use the real numbers. For shuffling columns, again, we have a tool, shuffle columns. We provide the name of the table, the name of the column, and we provide a primary key. So the function can know how it's going to relate to everything. What is the result of this? It's pretty much similar. In this case, I didn't anonymize the data, but if you take a look at the salary cents column, it's not the original people who have the salary. So I don't affect the calculations if I make if I sum the salaries, I'm gonna get exactly the same result. If I do pretty much median or any other operation, I get the same result. But what is the advantage? The real salary is not associated to the real person. This might be one of the cases that I want to solve. Another interesting function, adding noise to a column. What is the concept of noise? In this case, again, I'm going to add some noise to the table users in the column salary sent, and there's a point 10. What it means? This function is going to change the values of that column randomly, plus minus 10%. Again, this is the result. It's if you compare, we have the same order. We're not changing the order, but the number is not exactly the same. So we're adding some noise to the data. I know that this is sometimes useful for people who train data models. That okay, I want to have just model with noise. You can use that instead of using the real. But you know, even though you don't know or you don't disclose the real salary, you know that this number is between plus minus 10%. This is pretty much a part of the static, and it's what I've been found more useful so far, but it's not the only thing that the tool can do. We also have dynamic masking. This is very interesting because this can play together with Rails in a very interesting way. What is dynamic masking? That I can hide some data from a role, a database role, by declaring that role as mask. And then I can define rules, so when that database role connects to the database, it's gonna get the mask version of the data and not the real one. How does it work? It's pretty much the same. We started dynamic masking. In this case, we're creating a role and a security label for that role, restricted or mask. And again, if we open SQL and we join with this role, we are gonna see the data with the rules that we have defined, but if we use another user, we're gonna get the real data. We can do some very interesting with Rails that we have now multiple database connections. We can make one connection with the real user and one with a restricted one. And also another tool that is very interesting, anonymous database dumps. It's pretty much what you think it is. It's a wrapper for PG dump. And this wrapper is designed to export the mask data. So instead of getting the data and then processing, you can export the data directly with the rules that you have defined. And this is pretty much the same interface that the pgdump command that we know, but it's called pgdump anon. And we can pretty much say the host, user, and where do we want this file to be saved. What else we can do? Data generalization. That's very interesting because sometimes, let's take a look at this example. This is like a fake medical data. We have the social number, which I know we shouldn't disclose this information. And we have a first name, we have a zip code, which if we remember correctly, we have to take care of data related to address when the data is smaller than a state. I mean, we can say, oh, this person is from this country, but the state or smaller, we have to take care of that. Zip code is smaller than a state. The birth date, again, we saw that dates are something that we have to protect. And we have the disease, again, this is very confidential data. We can use a materialized view combined with this tool, so we can create a materialized view that it's anonymized. Pretty much this is like a vague description on how that would work. We have a generalized in a range. And this is the column that we want to generalize. And this is the range we want. And pretty much the same, if you take a look at the birth, we can say, okay, we want to generalize this in the range of a decade. So how the final data looks like, we don't have the social security number. The first name is redacted. The zip code, it's a zip code between this one and this one. So we have a range of 1,000. Birthday, again, we have a range of a decade. Sometimes it's good enough. Maybe you want to make like a smaller range or like a larger one. Again, we have a disease, but we have no idea which person has that disease. As wrapping thoughts, take a look at the tool. I'm really enjoying using this tool. And it's on GitLab. That's a GitLab logo. It's a fancy one. Just to close, what are the takeaways for this talk? First, understand the reasons why someone needs data before saying yes or not. And it's the reason of the title of the talk. It's from a meme that it says, like, I don't know, I think, the orcs are coming. Oh, I'm going to close the door. But the queen is also coming. Oh, I'm going to open the door. And then, but the queen is with the orcs. Oh, I'm going to open the door a little. So it's like sometimes the decision is not yes or not. You have to, and it's something that I've learned as consultant. Sometimes your client knows what they want, and they ask for what they think it's going to give the answer. But sometimes that's not true. What they are asking is not what they need. So it's our duty as consultants to make the right questions to know exactly what they want. In the cases that I show, it's like maybe they don't want the whole database. They just want to do something, but they think they need the whole. But it's up to us to discover that it's not the case. Or maybe it is. At that point, we need to know if we proceed or not. If justified, provide only what is needed without risking your users' information. It's what we saw with the two data reaches, the one in the States and the one in Mexico. And you can find a lot of cases all around the world. I'm sure it's not the only two that you can find online. And the last one is, again, this talk is about a very specific tool for Postgres. But regardless of the tool, be careful with the data you have. Once out of the server, it's hard to protect. You don't have control about how people take care of the data you give to them. It's pretty much when you upload a picture to the internet, you don't have control of that. So it's pretty much the same with data. Once you give a copy, you don't know if they are making more copies. You don't know if they are uploading to a server, and that copy is not protected, which is the case that happened in the second test case, or in the second case. So be careful with the data. That's the main lesson. Thank you.